Hey everyone, welcome to this edition of the Cartoon Flashback. And here we're going to talk about TMNT. And we're not talking about the 1980s, and I'm not here talking about the 87 to 96 series, no. I'm here to talk about the 2003 series. That's right. I'm here to talk about the 2003 series that ran from 2003 to essentially 2009. Ran from about 5 to 7, so about 7 seasons. Now you might say, well, why did it run for 7 seasons if it's from 2003 to 2009? That's 6 seasons. Well, the truth is, it was separated in 3 different incarnations. The first incarnation ran to about the mid-2000s. And then, between around 2007 and 2008, a new TMNT series came. 2 new series continuing off the 2003 one came about. In about 2008, about 2007 I should say, or was it 2008? I can't remember. Yeah, it was actually 2007. In about 2006 and 2007, Fast Forward was a continuation of the 2003 series, of the original start of the 2003. And then, in 2008 to about 2009, was Back to the Sewer. Now what's funny about this is that the difference between this one and the new one that's out on Nick, and the one that came before it, actually the 2 that came before it, the big difference is, well, one, unlike Next Mutation, it's not live action, and 2, unlike the original 80s to 87 to 96 cartoon, 10-year season, the 10th season original run, original cartoon series run, it's not as lighthearted or comedic as that one was. Let's just put it this way. You remember how from 94 to about 96 we got what was known as the Red Sky seasons? Yeah. Think of it that way, except a little bit more darker at times. And unlike this, and third, unlike the new one, it wasn't basically a combination of everything Ninja Turtles. It was basically set in one universe. That universe, of course, was almost consistently connected with the original run of the Ninja Turtles back in 1984. There was a lot of things from that time, the original Mirage run, comic run, that got implanted into this series. Now, I'm sure a lot of people were a little skeptical at first of how good this would be. Well, believe it or not, it turned out to be one of the better TMNT series ever. I mean, if you were to run down the 4 TMNT series that came out, actually 5 if you want to count the anime version, if you want to do a top 5, there's no doubt that your top 5 would become a top 4. Because TMNT in 2003 would almost would be tied, no doubt, with the original TMNT 80s to mid-90 run. With 2012-13 in second, Next Mutation in third, and the anime in fourth. There's no doubt about it. You might say, well, why did you put the anime in fourth? Well, the only way you can watch that is through YouTube, and I don't know how much of a connection it has to the original series, but I digress. Now, like I said, 2003 was definitely darker, especially when you first started out in the seasons. Now, it did tend to get a little lighthearted at times, but not really. It was more, basically, let's put it this way, this version of the Ninja Turtles, now this is a cover of Turtles Forever, but this version of the Ninja Turtles took more risk than any show, than any incarnation, past and present. I'm not lying. It took more risk. If you were to compare the risk that this one took compared to this new incarnation, this one would get the most votes. The series overall definitely showed that you had a dark tone and it was going to take risks. It did things that normally you would have read in the comics of Mirage, or even in the later issues of Archie's Adventures of the Ninja Turtles. That's how risky it got at times. I mean, some of the things, some people would say they were surprised they even passed those episodes to be aired. Some other ones, though, were not so lucky. Now, again, very controversial. Now, not very controversial, but it was very, very dark, and there were some episodes that were controversial. There's no doubt about it. For example, one episode that was lined up for the Lost Episodes run, that's right, the Lost Episodes, which was actually season 5, which was supposed to come before Fast Forward, but came sort of afterwards, or in between, let's just put it that way. There was one episode called Nightmare Recycled. That episode ended up getting cut while in production. Why? Because the episode was deemed too controversial. Let's just put it this way. One of the villains introduced throughout, at the beginning of this new series, of the 2003 series, the Garbage Man, let's just say, I'll just spell it out for you. Hopefully not getting this taken off or anything. Because pretty much anybody knows this by now. But basically the Garbage Man, that's who it was, who the villain was in this series. The Garbage Man is actually the twin brother of Hunt. Now you might say, well, what's the big problem about that? Well, basically, there's a flashback that was obviously deemed too violent and too mature and too dark and too controversial. You see, the flashback basically would consist of these two being born as twins. Of course, they'd be twins, but basically they'd be, let's just put it this way. They were connected. You know how when you're basically in real life, when twins are connected, sometimes you have to surgically, to either save them from dying or something like that, you have to take them to a hospital and have them specifically surgically, with the special tools and stuff, surgically separate them so they can live individual lives instead of being stuck together. That's basically what happened here. But the way they were surgically separated, let's just say, was deemed way too controversial. Let's just say it didn't take place in a hospital. So yeah, it was, there were episodes like that that did not get passed. But again, there were other things, in the series, other things in episodes in the series that, even though these episodes passed, some people were still surprised they even got aired. And I think that's why the Lost Episodes were a little too soon to be aired, didn't air as fast as they did, because I think there was some things in the episodes that obviously deemed that they weren't too sure should be passable or anything. But, they were passed. They were passed, so, but it was really cool. The one thing that was really cool about the series is that it seemed every time the Turtles and Splinter, along with their allies, would defeat the Shredder, he'd always seem to come bouncing back. That was the intriguing part to them, and I think even the viewers. It's like, how does this guy keep coming back? How does he keep surviving? It's only then do you realize it's actually not a human being, but it's actually an Utron. It's actually an alien brain known as an Utron. Yeah, an Utron that is taking, basically a renegade Utron, or rebel Utron, whatever you want to call him, that has taken on the disguise of the human Orokosaki, and thus later on the Shredder. So that was the intrigue. That was the interesting part about it. It's like, for those that were new to this version of Ninja Turtles and never read the Mirage but heard that it was based upon it, when they read this part, it blew them away. It really did. It blew them away. Because it's like, how does this guy keep coming back? And then you find out why. Another interesting aspect about it that helped it stay true to the original source material was April was never reported in this one. No. April was actually the former assistant of Baxter Stockman. Baxter Stockman actually turns out to be a black guy in this one, just like he does in the new one as well. But ends up being a black guy, just like I said in the new one as well, instead of a white guy. But instead of him mutating into a bug or a fly, I guess you could say his Achilles heel, or his Achilles heel, he always ends up with a different body. Okay, basically here's what happens. I can't remember the episode, but he gets damaged. Basically, he's working for the Shredder. And every time he fails the Shredder, the Orokosaki Utron Shredder, he ends up basically getting a part of his body destroyed. Either it's his eyes, either it's his arms, his body, or whatever, to the point that the last time you see him, which is in Enter the Dragons Part 2, in the Enter the Dragons 2-parter, which is the finale of the Lost Episodes, all he is a hologram, a computerized hologram. That's all he is. Either it's just as a head on a cyborg, on sort of a mech tank, a little miniature mech tank, or it's a hologram of his old body with the skeleton shown through. That's all you see of him. It's basically his brain is the only thing that's left functioning, which is kind of weird, but it is. So that was his Achilles heel. That was the thing that made people curious as well, that got interested, was wondering what's going to happen to this guy next. Another thing is you had a group known as the Purple Dragons get introduced. Basically, this was sort of like basically the Purple Dragons basically started out as servants of the Shredder, sort of like those lost kids, sort of like those teenagers in the original TMNT 90 movie, or 1990 movie. That's basically what they were. So you had the Purple Dragons, you had Shredder actually have an assistant in Hun, and a big bulky guy named Hun who actually had a history with Casey Jones. And it was really great to see all this. And I like the fact that Casey Jones is the first human they actually meet, and not April. April comes later on. And it's, again, just overall, I love the mishmashing of everything they put into this. I mean, they even go and rely on stuff they've done before. They do. They do. They bring, I mean, here's what's funny about this. They even pay homage, if you will, to a lot of things from other source materials. They did one episode that they dedicated to Jack Kirby. They did. One episode was dedicated to Jack Kirby. One of the other things about this is they actually allowed April herself, to get physical. That's right. We didn't have the damsel in distress always get mutated, throughout some seasons end up getting mutated temporarily into a different species or something like that, April. No. We had an April that was not only funny at times, not only could be funny and sarcastic at times, but could be taken seriously. And basically, if you get on her bad side, could kick your butt. That's right. They actually had her physically get involved in the fight. The one thing they did here is they had her learn martial arts, just like she did in the original, from Splinter. Splinter was actually teaching her martial arts. Now, that was pretty cool, so it allowed her to actually combat if she needed to, or be in combat if they needed her. Another thing about this as well is they follow sort of again, coming from the original source material, they follow the fact that Splinter was the pet rat of Orokosaki, not him being Oroku Saki. So, to me, I think, for what they did, for the 6 seasons they did this series, whether they ended up spinning off into Fast Forward, concluding with Back to the Sewers, it was definitely worthwhile. It was really good. The stories were good, some of the sagas were good, the story arcs were good. I mean, and here's the thing. One of the story arcs involved Leo having to find himself again. Basically, Leonardo, because he got the heck beat out of him, just like Raphael did in the 90s movie, Leonardo ends up becoming more of a dark character for a while, but then has to go meet up with this ancient one, which is sort of like a comic relief, kind of a taken seriously comic relief kind of sarcastic sensei, who knows Splinter and Oroku Saki from a long time ago. But basically, he has to go to this guy, and through these lessons with this individual known as the Ancient One, he ends up redeeming himself and being the Leonardo that used to be that Splinter knew. Like, this is the Leonardo. Basically, he went from being the dark side of Leonardo back to being the Leonardo he knew. That was the thing. Now, again, what's funny about this, and what's funny is that those were the kind of things that was unique about this. They took certain characters you wouldn't thought would go in certain direction, they would take in certain directions, and they did. I really like that. I really like the fact that Leatherhead is not portrayed as I'm from Louisiana kind of down south kind of guy. No offense to any of the Louisianans out there. No offense to you guys. But he was actually portrayed as a very intelligent creature who actually became an ally of the Turtles. Again, no offense to you Louisiana people. My apologies. But I really like that. I really like that he was more of an ally to them. And of course, they added in their own little like Justice League in there, Justice Society or whatever they were, that had tons of members and added members that the Turtles would recommend. It would help them either defeat, and these members would redeem themselves by joining the group, or something. But it was really cool. It was really cool to see all that. They do backgrounds on April and Casey's families, which is cool. I like that as well. So overall, it was definitely for the 6 to 7 seasons this show was on, it really definitely gave you more than you thought. It gave you more of your money's worth. And the fact that, Fast Forward, when it came on, it was a little bit more lighthearted than the previous series. And I think that's what they were trying to aim for. The fact is, Fast Forward, it lasted for as long as it did. And it was actually supposed to have more episodes, but those were canceled because I think they wanted to go and just finish it up. And they did. But I like the fact that after Fast Forward is done, not only do you take one character from Fast Forward and bring him back with the Turtles, but you actually sort of have a connection between both series because of the storyline. Overall, not too bad. Not really too bad. And the whole April Casey romance does come to a conclusion in Back to the Sewer, but takes some interesting twists and turns. Like there's one episode where April is given an engagement ring by Casey, and slowly but surely it starts mutating her or transforming her into a yin-yang monster. And if you don't believe me, Google it. That's all I'm going to say. Just Google it, you'll see exactly what I mean. And then of course, after it's all said and done, the real finale comes with the 25th anniversary movie, Turtles Forever. Now, Turtles Forever actually had some theatrical screens when it first came out, before it hit the 4Kids networks, and then later on Nickelodeon. The only problem with Turtles Forever, according to a lot of people, is there's 2 different versions. One that's about 7 minutes longer, and of course, this version. But overall, for those of you that are new, for those of you that are young and are new to the Ninja Turtle franchise, if you really want to see what a difference in style between Ninja Turtles, your Ninja Turtles right now, and the more recent one before them, go to Netflix, rent some of the DVDs, or if you can find them on YouTube or torrents or whatever, look them up, watch them, and you'll see a major difference, folks. Major difference, young ladies and gentlemen, a major difference. You'll see a major difference there. I mean, they do pay homage to certain other portions of the franchise. Like there's one episode where April disguises herself sort of similar to her 80s counterpart. You know, with the yellow jumpsuit and the Channel 6 deal. So, overall, I highly recommend for anybody that's new to the Ninja Turtle franchise, that's getting into it because of the 2012-13 series, you want to check out another good version of them, check out Ninja Turtles 2003-2009. You'll definitely like it. Believe me, you will like it, you'll get a kick out of it, and it's definitely gonna keep you interested, keep your interest going from episode to episode. That's how good it is. So, and just a little warning, if you do, there will be some episodes that will be a little controversial for some of the scenes and subject matters that they go into. But overall, highly recommended. So that's all I'm going to say on this edition of the Cartoon Flashback of TMNT 2003. Comment below and let me know what you guys think.